invited onto the show Rabbi Eliyahu Shear, who's originally from South Africa. Rabbi Shear is an interesting person. He learned for his smicha, which is the rabbinate, over the internet on a special program, and then he came to Israel to take the smicha tests. He became a rabbi in 4 different areas, and now he and his wife have a website devoted to helping people, particularly Olim, and he teaches Torah both over the internet and in person. Rabbi Shear, are you on the line with us?
I'm here, Judy.
How are you today, Rabbi Shear?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Baruch Hashem, really, really good.
Great.
We've been talking about the blessings that Jacob gave his 12 sons and 2 of his grandsons. And I've invited you to the show to talk to you about this whole concept. Jacob is not an angel. He's not God himself. He's a human being with good points, bad points, frailties, yet he said words. He just said words. He said things to his sons and to his grandsons. These things were blessings, and they come true. Where does a person get such power to be able to say a few words and it comes true?
Okay, Judy, the thing that we have to look at is the power of a human being. And a human being is created in the image of God. And that means to say that when a human being sanctifies his body, and therefore he uses his soul in the correct way, he is able to bring blessing into the lives of others just by using the very vessels that he is given by God in order to bring blessing into their lives. In fact, Jacob is the grandson of Abraham, and when we look at the Chumash and we go to chapter 12, verse 2, we see that God gave a special blessing to Abraham, and he said to him, "I will make of you a great nation, I will bless you, and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing." What does this verse mean exactly? Well, Rashi points out to us that up until the time of Abraham, the blessings were actually in the hands of Hashem, so to speak. And he blessed Adam, and he blessed Noah. But when it came to the time of Abraham, God said to him that he shall be the blessing itself. He shall now be the source of blessing. Into his hands he was now given the opportunity to bless other people. Although God had held onto this himself up until this point in time, when it came to Abraham, God said to him that you will now be the source of blessings, and from you all blessing will come to the rest of the world. So, of course, every single Jew who goes about his life in a way of sanctifying his body becomes that ultimate vessel to be able to give blessing to other people. Perhaps I can share a very beautiful story with regards to the famous Baba Sali, Rabbi Yisrael Abu Chatzera, the famous Kabbalist, who lived, he died just about 25 years ago. And when he was a young boy, perhaps 9 years old or 10 years old, already he was a great Tzadik, a great righteous individual, even at that age. But when he was at school on one occasion, a certain event happened where he saw that one of the children in the class was behaving disrespectfully to another child. And when he came home, he had a very sad expression on his face. And his father immediately encountered him and asked him, Yisrael, tell me, what happened at school today? And he told his father that one of the children had behaved in a very disrespectful way. And he thought to himself, he should go ahead and curse this child. Immediately his father stopped him and said, Rabbi Yisrael, he said, your mouth is a source of blessing for the entire world. And as you grow older, you will see that you will be blessing to other people just from the words that you use from your mouth. Don't you ever dare to use your mouth to curse other people. From this short story, we see a very beautiful idea that every single tzaddik, every single person really, who works on himself and purifies himself, so his very mouth becomes the vessel to bring blessing into the lives of others.
Let me just review what you've said. You tell me if I understood it correctly. You're saying that until the time of Abraham, blessing was in the hands of God alone. Only God could bestow blessing upon people. But then God gave Abraham a blessing which said, you now have the ability to bless others. And since that time, tzaddikim, or righteous people, people that have worked on themselves, refined their character traits, and made themselves holy, have the ability to bestow a blessing, or as you said, even a curse, on another person just by using words. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. In fact, as we know, there's a very beautiful verse in the book of Proverbs, in chapter 18, verse 21, which says that life and death are in the power of the tongue. Of course, the famous Chofetz Chaim, Rabbi Israel Meir Kagan, teaches this very concept. He's the absolute authority in today's times, who teaches us that the effect that the mouth can have on the lives of other people is tremendous for both good and for bad. And when we use it correctly, of course, we bring blessing to the lives of others. And when we use it incorrectly, we can bring the most greatest tragedies into the lives of others.
What you're referring to, Rabbi Shear, is even regular people like us, not even tzaddikim. You're saying that even we have power with things that we say with our tongue?
In fact, every single person has this power. Of course, if a person is a tzaddik and he has refined himself, the power of his tongue is that much more powerful. There is a beautiful story that is told in the Gemara, in Gemara Brachot, on page 7a, which teaches about one of the Kohanim Gedolim, one of the great Kohanim, the main high priests, Rabbi Ishmael ben Elisha. And in fact, he entered the Holy of Holies on one occasion to burn the incense in the Kodesh Kodeshim, in the Holy of Holies. And he says over there that he entered and he saw the appearance of God sitting in front of him. Now here I want to just make clear, he didn't see some sort of a physical image of a human being sitting on a chair, but what he saw in his vision, in his meditation, in his experience as he was approaching God, is he envisioned that God was in front of him. And he saw that God was sitting on this lofty throne of compassion. And God said to him, "Yishmael, my son, bless me." So Ishmael said to him, "Master of the universe, may it be your will that your mercy conquer your anger, that your mercy overcome your sterner attributes, that you behave toward your children with the attributes of mercy, and that for their sake you go beyond the boundary of judgment." And God nodded his head, and therefore the Gemara comes to teach that one should know that the blessing given even by an ordinary person should never be taken lightly in anybody's eyes. Here was God himself, the creator of the entire universe, who himself bestows blessing upon everybody. And he turned to Ishmael, the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, and he said to him, "Ishmael, bless me." He asked a human being, he said, "I have given you a certain power. You too are powerful. You are a soul. You are a portion of my own being. And I want you to take that resource that you have, and I want you to use it for good in order to bless me, so that ultimately I myself will bless the world even more so." Of course, God doesn't need that, but nevertheless, in God's humility, he says to a human being, "Bless me." And from here, the Gemara deduces that no person should ever think for one moment that the blessing of a simple person should ever be taken lightly in their eyes.
Wow, that is so powerful. What you said just now about even the simplest person has the power of a blessing. What that makes me think of is sometimes if you're walking down a busy street, let's say in Jerusalem, and someone holds out his hand asking you for a coin, and you give him a coin that you happen to have in your pocket, and he gives you a blessing. I mean, you might think to yourself, what a lowly person. What does his blessing mean? But that's not true. Every human being has the power to bless. That's very strong.
Right, this is obviously a very powerful thought and a beautiful thought, and something that we have to keep in mind. You know, when we actually look at our interactions that we have with people on a day-to-day basis, even if we're not tzaddikim, and we pay attention to what's happening in our discussions, we know that all the time we are affecting other people by our language. Obviously, if a person goes around spreading bad rumors about somebody else, of course, at that point in time, so to speak, he is literally giving a curse to that person. Because once people start hearing the negative speech that is spoken about him, they'll all refrain from doing business with him. They'll refrain from talking to him. They'll refrain from learning from him. And he'll be left as an outcast from society. Whereas when one speaks well of another individual, even if one doesn't necessarily bless the individual himself, but one simply speaks well of him, and people hear good reports and they say, "What a wonderful person this is," then automatically people will say, "I want to do business with him. I want to get to know him better. I want to find a shidduch for this individual. I want to be a part of his life as well, and I want him to be a part of my life." Indeed, this is what the Jewish people is all about. It's about unity. And that can only be attracted, it can only be done when every single person is speaking well about the other in a way that ultimately brings blessing to each individual.
I have a question about this week's Parsha based on the things that you've been teaching us so far, Rabbi Shear. Jacob gave a blessing to his three oldest sons, Reuven and Shimon and Levi. And like we spoke about earlier in the show, they weren't exactly blessings, they were more like rebuke. Was he bringing a curse upon them?
Well, I for sure cannot say exactly what is happening in the blessings, but I'd like to say one beautiful idea, and that is that a certain story is told with regards to the second Chabad Rebbe, known as the Mitteler Rebbe, that it happened to be on one occasion when he was in shul and the reading of the Torah was being done, and it turned out that his father, the Alter Rebbe, was not there on a particular year when they were reading a section of the Torah dealing with the curses. Well, when the Mitteler Rebbe, he was about 12 years old at the time, as he was listening to the person reading this particular portion of the Torah, so he suddenly fell into a tremendous faint as he heard the curses being read out, and he became very, very sick, to such a degree that for weeks on end, they were worried that he wasn't going to survive the event. Anyway, it turns out that he did survive, and he came out of his stage of tremendous sickness. And they asked him, what happened to you? And the Mitteler Rebbe said, although he was only 12 years old at the time, he said, the reason that I fell into this tremendous sickness is because I heard this person reciting these curses. So they asked the Mitteler Rebbe, but didn't you ever hear these curses being read before? He says, yes, you see, but when I heard them being read before, my father, the Alter Rebbe, he was the one who used to recite them. So they said, but you heard it before. He says, yeah, but when my father recited them, they weren't curses, they were blessings. And therefore, and that's what the Torah says, that if a person is meritorious, then the Torah becomes for him as an elixir of life. And if a person is not meritorious, the Torah becomes for him an elixir of death. What does it mean? The Torah is the same Torah. So therefore, when a person comes to approach the Torah in the correct way, he will see that even hidden inside certain words that seem to indicate some sort of negativity, in actual fact, the words themselves are filled with tremendous blessing. And therefore, if we wanted to, we could, of course, analyze each blessing individually until going to the depths of it to find out what the real blessing is all about.
So you're saying that there could have been a blessing within the words of rebuke.
That's right. There's no question about it. That you're talking about a person on the caliber of Jacob, our father. There's no question about that. Even within the words that he might use to indicate something of a negative nature, he for sure, as a parent, wants nothing less than the best for his children. And therefore, even if the rebuke seems to come out in some sort of a negative way, the truth of the matter is Jacob is hinting and he's sharing over what the ultimate blessing is really going to be about.
See. Rabbi Shear, do you have a message for our Mikdash Kids listeners at home all over the world?
I would like to share just one last story, because I always feel that stories are what get the message across the best. And this particular story concerns a Tzadik who lived some 35, 40 years ago, by the name of Rebbe Levi. Everybody's heard of him, the Tzadik in Jerusalem. And one person once came up to Rebbe Aryeh and they asked him, Rebbe Aryeh, tell me something. Are you one of the 36 hidden tzaddikim in the world? The Torah teaches us that at all times there are always 36 hidden tzaddikim who run the world. And Rebbe Aryeh said, I want to tell you something. You think that I'm a hidden tzaddik, but the truth of the matter is the Torah didn't say that there are only 36 hidden tzaddikim in the way you understand it. But rather one must understand that at any point in time there are always 36 people who at that point in time are fulfilling a mitzvah of Torah and bring a tremendous goodness and kindness to the world that nobody else can ever see. And at that point in time, they take the key and they become that hidden tzaddik. And therefore, since we're talking about this beautiful message of the power of the tongue and the power of blessing others, we can take with us the message that we each have the opportunity at each point in time, wherever we find ourselves, to take hold of that key and to become the hidden tzaddik at that point in time, using our mouths to bring goodness and kindness and spreading words of comfort to aid people, to help people, to unify the Jewish people, and to make us all feel that we're on a common goal to better the world.
That's such an empowering message, because what you're saying is that we each have within us the power in our mouths to become these tzaddikim by making the world a better place. Thank you so much, Rabbi Shear.
Thank you very much for having me.
One more thing, Rabbi Shear, if someone wants to listen to your Torah online, what is your web address?
The address is Torah Online, which is TORAHONLINE .weebly, WEEBLY Torah.com.
Let me just repeat that. If you would like to listen to Rabbi Eliyahu Shear's Torah, you can listen to him online, www.torahonline, that's all one word, TORAHONLINE, weebly.com. Rabbi Shear, I wish you all the best of everything.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I do too. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye.